In this video, we will be introducing and tasting batch number 64 of the ecochateas Club, a Dong Pian Oolong Tea. Yeah, we're heading into Lugu right now, heading up to Feng Huang village, where our good friend Mr. Chen lives and has a small plot of tea nearby his house that he has planted. Number 20, which is Tai Cha number 20, is a hybrid strain designed by the Tea Research and Extension Station. It's known for being very close to Qingxin Oolong in its flavor profile. It's said to be good for mid-elevation climates and it can withstand drier spells. So for farms that don't have irrigation, it apparently does relatively better. And he harvested at the end of November, I believe. I'll have to check on the date, but basically after the lunar calendar season for winter tea. So it qualifies as Dong Pian, which I translate as late winter tea to make it more representative. Dong Pian is winter, and Pian is a word to describe a smaller leaf because the leaf growth is smaller. And it has a particular quality in terms of its character and flavor profile, given that it grows at the very end of the growing season when the weather is colder. It's a slower growth, slightly stunted growth in the leaves, and just gives them a different composition than any other time of year. So we have a batch of Dong Pian Tai Cha number 20. It's called Ying Xiang in Chinese, which means alluring fragrance. Let's go check it out. So we've already talked about what this tea is and where it comes from on the ride up to the source in Lugu Township. Let's get right into tasting it and talking about this particular batch of tea and the character that it embodies. I brewed the tea 5 times. I have the first brew here and second, third, fourth, and fifth so that we can taste them consecutively. And yeah, let's get right into it. Cooled down to maybe 40, 50 degrees, close to room temperature, but still a little warm. Very soothing, mild, a little bit of savory. When I was smelling the leaves as I was brewing them in the pot, the first notes that I got were, one was eggnog, this kind of creamy but spicy, warming spice kind of note. And the second thing I thought of was parsnips, roasted parsnips. And then as I brewed consecutively, it became a little bit more green leafy, kind of like sauteed Swiss chard and butter. A little bit of buttery note there, some sweetness. And as I progressed, it got a little more vegetal. Went from kind of this savory, slightly pastry, creamy qualities in the aromatic profile, and then into a more mild vegetal with a little bit of buttery and sweetness there. And the flavor of the tea is kind of following suit. I'm getting a mild, for some reason the color yellow comes to mind, like a yellow vegetable like Delicata squash, something squash oriented. I guess there's a sweetness to it, a little bit of winter vegetable character. Significantly thicker mouthfeel. It's an interesting combination of savory and vegetal with this kind of flowery sweetness there as well. I suppose one of the reasons I'm thinking yellow is the obvious factor of the color of the tea. I'm sitting here staring at
decreasing in numbers, but several cups of brewed tea. They're all quite consistent in their appearance, the brewed tea. And it's a golden green, darker than a standard high mountain oolong would be, revealing the level of oxidation for one. And the brewed leaves as well are showing significant oxidation. We can see reddening in the stems and on the edges of the leaves. The leaves are still very supple. So in terms of why we chose to share this batch of tea, there's a couple of reasons. One is that it truly qualifies as a Dong Pian in the sense that it was harvested after the 2-week period following Li Dong, this date. In the Chinese almanac, so to speak, there are 24 seasonal cycles in the almanac designated by certain dates, one of which is Li Dong. And so Li Dong is the heart of winter harvest traditionally, so to speak. So 2 weeks before Li Dong and 2 weeks after Li Dong is the proper winter harvest time. Li Dong fell on November 7 in 2020. And this batch of tea was harvested on December 6th. So on that ride up to my friend's house, the first thing I did was ask him, and we found out that it was December 6th. And so it's well after the 2-week seasonal cycle following Li Dong. And that's what the name Dong Pian is used for, tea that's harvested after the winter harvest season proper. It's being used in a different sense and somewhat compromising the actual meaning, although it's just a name. But many people are calling the bumper crop after winter harvest a Dong Pian. And it's not quite the same. This crop started growing right after the previous harvest on October 10, and that at a full 55 days, which is the full growing cycle, particularly at this elevation, lower mid elevation of 500 meters. And so there was a full growing season that led up to the date it was harvested. That differs from when you harvest during the winter harvest season, before and after Li Dong, this date, and then you go back and harvest again what was too small to pick at winter harvest time, basically a bumper crop. And that crop ends up being stunted usually, especially at higher elevations, and somewhat yellowed by the growing conditions, the late winter growing conditions, which provides a different character of stock. This particular batch is similar to a winter harvest, especially since it was grown lower. It's remained warm enough and conducive to continued growth. So basically the growth cycle wasn't really stunted by colder weather. And our friend processed it basically in the local fashion, which means a significant level of oxidation, which would make it a traditionally made oolong. And in these days, a lot of people take that level of oxidation as a preparatory step to roasting. But we've been getting into the commercialized version of the Dongding Oolong tradition, which is just a level of oxidation and finesse in that oxidation. So when the leaves are properly manipulated, they have this evenness of oxidation that produces a color of tea that we see here, not too red, and that usually goes in combination or in conjunction with an oolong flavor profile and aromatic profile, which is basically very fragrant and fresh still, although with substantial body. Too much talk, not enough sips. Let's go into the third brew. Yeah, it's slowly getting more vegetal, a little bit more astringent. I think this brew, the third brew, I went a little longer time-wise. But still that kind of creamy winter vegetable combined with floral, like a dried flower kind of essence to it. Really nice finish, clean finish in the back of the mouth, through the nose. Okay, 4. Wow, something else going on in the nose there. It's not fruity. It's this interesting balance between vegetal and floral. So I think that possibly is connected to the cultivar. This is Tai Cha number 20, given the name Ying Xiang, which means alluring fragrance, as we said in the car. And it just has a character of its own, but similar to the Qingxing Oolong in the actual experience of drinking the tea. So I think this kind of interesting aromatic profile on top of the kind of more standard or proper oolong base of a flavor profile is what gives this tea its special character. Fifth brew, holding out, still very thick and smooth, and actually less astringent than, I think I went a little bit too long on the brews there, because the fifth brew is mild and balanced. It's just refreshing and comforting, satisfying. So that's kind of the meaning, and I'm getting to experience this. You know how things work when you study something or you're into something for decades on end. It goes in cycles. There's kind of this spiral effect. And I feel personally I'm in this phase of reappreciating unroasted, traditionally made oolongs like this one. And this has a late winter character to it. There's something with a little bit of extra crispness, or I don't know. The fact that it has floral combined with this dark green leafy and things like parsnips, it makes it interesting, you know? So there we have it, a Dong Pian Oolong that is not overly green like the typically made Dong Pian that you find on the market, and with its own special character and flavor profile. We're happy to have been able to procure this batch of tea. It was a very minimal amount that was harvested. That shows that it was a late season harvest as well. Not a lot of leaf growth, but enough and tender enough to make it a proper crop of tea worthy of picking and processing. So there we have it. Batch number 64 of the ecochateas Tea Club, Dong Pian Oolong. You can check out all the other details on our tasting blog and as well as our sourcing blog. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next month.